Warm greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. There's so many children who are abused and neglected in foster care and by their adoptive parents. And it is a shame that this still has to be a subject matter into 2021. And something can be done about it if you keep your ears and your eyes open and you get the said information. Notify the authorities. If you see something, say something. With the situation going on out in California City, California, pertaining to two small boys who are still currently missing at week 3, I bring you this article and information to show you the stats and the sad info pertaining to abused and neglected children, and also those who have been murdered by their adoptive parents. And we can only pray that this will not continue to be a problem and go unnoticed. It has to stop, the abuse and the murder of children in general. But the state entrusts said parties to take care of foster children and adoptive children. And little do they know, those people are not fit mentally to take care of those children. So what do the state do? What can they do? Because you see, you don't know people. And you're relying on these people to take care of these children. But, as they say in the street, loyalty is blind. If you need a source for this storyline, please log on to change.org. Stop the abuse and murders of adopted children by reforming adoption. 225 have signed. Let's get to 500, and this is a said petition. Megan DePero started this petition to Governor Andrew M. Cuomo and 88 others. This petition is being sent out to the state senate and state house of all 50 states in the United States. My name is Megan DePero, and for the past 17 years, I have been an activist and researcher for the necessary reformation of America's broken adoption industry that endangers children. My goal in this petition to provide safe homes for all children and improve a very broken and greedy system. I have done my work voluntarily and have been nominated to audition for TED Talks, corresponded with police departments, helped in a shelter that included abused adoptive kids, endured discrimination myself as an adoptee, and have seen too many terrible cases here in the United States of kids in both foster care and kids who are adopted being abused, neglected, and even murdered by their adoptive parents. Many of these adoptive murdered children are either adopted from overseas or they are adopted from foster care. In 2015, over 100 adoptive children were murdered or raped and murdered by their adoptive parents, commonly called adopters or adoptor-raptors if they are abusive. According to a Reuters 2013 investigation, the Child Exchange, approximately 25,000 adoptive children in America are resold every year. With such loose regulations, these children are sometimes being resold to pedophiles. With such loose regulations, some of these children are being adopted from foster care or from Asian countries right into the houses of disgusting American and Canadian pedophiles. Children from African countries such as Ghana and from Albania are being adopted for either abuse or to be murdered and their organs harvested on the black market. Although these atrocities mostly are not directly played out by Americans, the multi-billion-dollar, loosely regulated, uncredentialed American adoption industry that profited $15 billion in the United States in 2017 has done nothing to improve the safety of adopted children. They have done nothing to advocate to end the fact in 6 states convicted rapists can have partial custody of their children, which results in pushing women into abortion and adoption. They have done nothing to rectify the numerous illegal adoptions that happen to poor white children, Native American children, and children trafficked into the U.S. from Canada, Ireland, and South Korea who now can't legally vote or marry. The multi-billion-dollar adoption industry has created the lie of birth parent privacy in order to hide the fact that the human trafficker Georgia Tann sold babies to senators such as Lehman of New York, who then sealed adoption records and original birth certificates in order to hide he bought 2 children from a human trafficker. Today, this means millions of adopted American citizens cannot get their real birth certificate, life-saving medical information, know their heritage, or in some cases, obtain a passport simply for being adopted. Adoptees adopted as infants account for much higher suicide rates and psychological problems. They also have higher incarceration rates. If we were to take the money out of adoption in America, like Australia did, we would see 95% of adoptions cease to exist. While we acknowledge the fact that there is terrible and sad cases of child abuse and child homicide within biological families, the very fact that adopted children are being raped and murdered is a clear indication that CPS and the adoption industry are failing children and finding safe homes for them. This is why in each state, we the petitioners want to issue the Adopted Children Safety Checkup Protocol and to reinvent America's adoption industry to look more like Britain's and Finland's. We demand the following. Number 1. All closed adoptions will now become open adoptions. Biological parents, if deemed safe, and extended family members, if biological parents are not safe, will be given the address of where their child lives. They will also have access to know what school they attend. In case a teacher needs to report child abuse, if a teacher or other school officials must report a possible case of child abuse towards the child, the biological family members will be notified, at which point, if child abuse is detected, they can demand in court to have their child back. Number 2, all open adoptions are to become legally enforceable. Adoption agencies lie to vulnerable, scared pregnant girls and tell them that open adoptions stay open. This is a lie. In no state are they legally enforceable. By the time the adopted child is 5, most open adoptions close, and nearly always by the adoptive parents, and almost always not because the biological parent is unsafe, such as having a drug problem. The closing of an open adoption for no valid reason is suspicious and as to the welfare of the adopted child. Number 3, adopting a child means the child becomes your own. But the child is always a child of another couple and a family member to their biological kin. Adopting a child must come with added responsibilities and understanding. Due to the fact every year several dozen adopted children are being murdered and thousands abused in the United States, we want a law passed in every state that a local police officer where the child lives will come once a year and make a surprise visit to the family until the child is 18. This surprise visit will have the officer privately ask the child questions and look them over for signs of abuse and quality of house life. Since most murdered and abused adoptive children are homeschooled, it will take place at the house. While some see this as controversial home invasion, one child murdered is too many, and the adoption industry has had their opportunity to fix the problem, but has failed to do so. Any adopted child found to be abused results in the immediate firing of the adoption lawyer and shutdown of the adoption agency that failed to find a suitable home. Number 4, people with prior criminal convictions besides DUI, unless it's chronic DUI, will not be allowed to adopt. I have come across cases of biological parents wanting their child back within the legal time frame, the agency ignoring their phone calls and emails and adopting away their child to people with prior drug offenses, and then using high-profile child psychologists whom they pay big money to say the child should never be given back to the mentally and economically stable biological parents who have no record. Number 5, we demand that female minors are no longer allowed to give away their baby to adoption without a trusted adult knowing. Currently, in most states, girls as young as 14 and 12 in one state can give away their baby in secret without a trusted adult in their life knowing, such as a parent, aunt, police officer, or teacher. These girls are not fairly represented and have no idea how the law works as they are way too young. I have personally seen this happen to female minors in the state of California where they were told it's okay to keep your baby a secret and they will grow up and forget all about it right now in 2018. This has to be considered an appalling act of child abuse of adolescent girls. Number 6, the abortion and adoption industry have a history of not reporting rapes and domestic violence in the past. We demand that all sealed adoption records are unsealed and given to the adult adoptees, to the biological mothers, and to the police departments in each jurisdiction to unveil whether or not an adoption agency worker knew about a rape, especially of a female minor who failed to report the rape. Please note, most women who conceive in rape do in fact keep their child, while 100% are told they will be bad reminders, as pointed out to me by my friend who survived a rape and attempted murder and now has a 3-year-old son. He is not a reminder at all, according to my friend. We demand that adoptees be given the option. Is they choose of giving their DNA samples to police departments in order to help solve cold cases. Agencies involved in the baby scoop era, the kidnapping of infants, will be investigated and shut down because they failed to provide advocacy for unsealing records and birth certificates, which has led to generations of psychological abuse and children to live with kidnappers or unknowing adoptive parents. I have no doubt some cold cases in America can be solved with adoptees and biological parents' DNA, but should be given voluntary unless there is strong implication the biological father is a rapist. This was known, and the agency failed to report this knowledge. The agency should be prosecuted even if the rape is too old to bring to trial, as should any parent of the biological mother if she was a minor at the time of the rape, conceived pregnant, and the parents knew but failed to report. The best option would be to eliminate a time frame on rape reporting. Also, to prosecute agencies who failed to report domestic violence, which led to a baby being given away for adoption. These agencies notoriously did nothing to help mother and child to stay together and find help together away from violence. And this outrage continues. Number 7, we demand that all adoptions from now on must first be in a family. Extended biological family members must be interviewed first. If they cannot or should not raise a child, then out-of-family adoptions will not seal original birth certificates anymore and will provide the adoptive parents only with the certificate of adoption. All adoptive children, including when they move to another police jurisdiction, must have their children fingerprinted and photographed by the police department. We must stop this insane idea that keeping a pregnancy secret is psychologically healthy, even when volunteering with abused children. I have failed to see this as beneficial. Number 8, we demand that adoption agencies no longer be permissible to deny an adoptee, child, or adult their family medical history when the biological parents want them to have it, as this has killed adoptees. Number 9, finally, we demand it is now considered a crime of child neglect if an adoptive parent resells their adoptive child unless the adoptive child was putting a family member's life in danger. If the adoptive child is violent, it will now be mandated family therapy is first issued. If this fails, child will then be removed from the home without the adoption agency or adoption attorney making any profit. Adoption agencies claim being non-profit, but their 990 forms often show some, like Bethany Christian Services, whose director is the brother of Betsy DeVos, are making millions annually in tax returns. This is a controversial bill to pass for each 50 state. However, with 17 years of research, this bill for each state can only result in positive solutions. It is time to end the greed that has resulted in hurt and murdered children. Sources: The Baby Thief by Barbara Raymond, The Child Catchers, The Child Exchange Reuters Investigation. To Prison with Love by Sandy Musser, A Hole in My Heart by Lorraine Dusky, The Kimberly Rossler Case, Pup Pound Legacy, The Stork Market by Myra Riben, The Former Donaldson Adoption Institute, Bastard Nation Unsealed Initiative, and AdoptionBirthMothers.com, Concerned United Birth Parents, and my own interviews. And this is a said petition that you can sign on change.org, and the orchestrator of this petition is Megan DePero. So I believe this is a 2018 report. Thanks for listening. As you see, there's an epidemic with children being adopted, going into foster care and adoption. And as you see, abuse will occur when there's no one to go in to check, because as they say, adoption is final. And yes, it is the adoptive parents who can decide if they want to have an open adoption and let the biological parent have access to the child, information about the child, pictures, photos, personal dealings, etc. But it's also sad to hear in this report that 100% of the children adopted at birth end up being incarcerated or committing suicide. Now that's what you call insane. Because what you have to ask yourself, most people want infants. Most people want to adopt infants, as I've told you previously in my past video. So then it sounds insane to hear that a child adopted at birth who grows into this family ends up wanting to kill himself or kill himself, herself, and ends up incarcerated. Why is that? Because it's letting you know that possibly they have not been treated well while in the said home of the adoptive parent, and or genetics can also be a factor into a child's disposition. This is sad to me. This is very sad. And we are seeking justice for two small boys out of California City, California at this moment who have gone missing from their adoptive caretakers. And we want to know where those children are. And we will not rest until we get answers. And all suspects are brought in. All suspects. All parties involved. Those knowing and those orchestrating the disappearance and, in worst case, murder of the said two boys in California City, California. Thanks for joining me. Go to change.org and sign the petition because it is needed. Because we can't get change if people won't do anything. And it is by Megan DePero. And it's Murders of Adopted Children by Reforming Adoption. 225 have signed. Thanks for joining me. I will be back later with another video and a live tonight. This is Everyday Shenanigans.